The Ontario government has released its budget for 2021-2022, $186 billion in spending with a projected deficit of just over $33 billion. It is the largest spending budget in Ontario history. And we are joined now by Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy. Good to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Bob. I wish I was in studio with you again, but we do this way until we get everyone vaccinated and safe to do in studio again.
Yeah, and we're certainly on that path. Now, this deficit is actually lower than the previous one. What was factored in without any tax hikes or cuts here to make it lower?
Well, number one message from this budget is really we're still in this pandemic. You know, the numbers are rising, the third wave, our hospital numbers are going up. So putting $1 billion to vaccinate everybody in this province who wants to get a vaccine. I'm encouraged that more and more people want to get vaccinated. So we haven't defeated this pandemic yet. You know, it's like being 4/5 of the way through this war. Against this invisible enemy. So the number one thing is we got to finish that job. We got to get vaccines in every arm, and that way we can protect the safety and health of every Ontarian.
Now, there's going to be some protests. The Ontario Nurses Association says the budget doesn't help short term and doesn't make up for cuts prior to the pandemic.
Well, we've been investing unprecedented amounts in the healthcare system, and you know this makes up for a lack of investment in the last decade or so. We're investing unprecedented amounts in our hospital capacity because we need more beds and we need more hospital capacity. We have an aging population. We're putting unprecedented amounts in our long-term care facilities. You know, only 611 beds were built from 2011 to 2018. We said we'd build 30,000 new beds. We've announced over 20,000, so we're well on our way. We've increased the standard of care for long-term care residents. That's the gold standard in Ontario, which means that we'll hire 27,000 new personal support workers and nurses. And we're training right now, we're recruiting and training personal support workers both in classroom and in the long-term care homes because it's so important that we retain those workers. And so having that experiential training on site is so critical. So we're making investments. We're dealing with it right now, Bob. But I think these are the smartest investments longer term because without healthy people, we can't have a healthy economy.
Yeah, we have a viewer question related to that. Why are for-profit long-term care homes getting the same as public in terms of dollars?
Well, yeah. No, thanks for that question. It's an important question. You know, we have to build capacity. We need to recruit more personal support care workers, more nurses into our long-term care homes. As mentioned, the standard of care 4 hours. So it's all hands on deck. The quality of care is going up, the staffing, and of course the capacity. So we're really these are investments long overdue. We're making them, and we will continue to do that.
Okay, another viewer question regarding parents getting $400 per child regardless of income. Why not a targeted approach for those who really need it?
Because to get this money out the door, this is the fastest way to do it. And I wanted to get the money to every parent who has children between the ages of just born to grade 12. So that's $400 per child, and it's also $500 for each child with special needs. That's almost $1 billion. That doubles the amount that we gave before. And it was so important, Bob, to support parents who are working, maybe working at home or needing support to support their children. We introduced a top-up of the child care tax credit. We also introduced money to, we're continuing to build child care spaces. And so with the combination of these programs, you know, we want to support families, we want to support parents. And, you know, women have been disproportionately impacted by this pandemic. And I made that very clear that that's a priority for us. And I've struck a task force to be co-chaired between myself and the Associate Minister, Jill Dunlop, in charge of women and children, to hear from all women because we have an opportunity along with the federal government to put our programs, face the barriers that women have. A lot of our small businesses are run by women. They were disproportionately affected by the pandemic through some of the accommodation, hospitality types of services. So we want to make sure that we have a sustainable plan that's inclusive for our economy for everybody.
Let's get to infrastructure plans. $21 billion being spent, roads and bridges. Hamilton, part of that story. An expansion of Highway 6, Hamilton to Guelph. How fast is that money and project moving?
Well, those are important investments. You're right. We're making big investments in transit right across the province, $60 billion, subways here and light rapid transit in Hamilton, the highway you just mentioned, Highway 6. My philosophy is let's go. I've always instructed officials. I'm from the business sector, the private sector, and I think it's important that we do it right, of course, but get shovels in the ground and go fast. And that's why we're focused on things like red tape that sometimes slow things down. We, of course, won't compromise safety and security, but boy, we can do things a lot faster. And we've seen other jurisdictions around the planet who are a lot quicker to achieve the same thing. So the Premier's been very clear, shovels in the ground, and let's get going.
Okay. We were just speaking minutes ago with the Mayor of St. Catharines, happy with the small business grants, but the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is saying there are some individuals that are falling through the cracks with the grants. Is this thing going to evolve and be tweaked along the way? And some are concerned that people with more than one business can only apply once.
So Walter's doing a great job in St. Catharines. Let me say this. Those businesses that were affected by the province-wide lockdown couldn't even operate or were severely restricted. We provided the Ontario Small Business Grant for between 10 and 20,000. And Bob, I'm very pleased that over 100,000 small businesses, we project it'll be 120,000 by the end, have successfully applied for this grant. They've told me this is the difference between keeping the lights on and turning them off for good. We've doubled that. That'll be another 1.7 billion, 3.4, but we're also targeting those businesses that could remain open that have been really hardest hit, like in the travel, in the tourism, in the hospitality sector. So
unfortunately, we're hard pressed for time. Yeah, we're hard pressed for time as well, Minister, and we really appreciate you sharing some of yours with us this morning, Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy. Thank you, and good to see you again.
My pleasure, Bob.